don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD, Annabelle, and Melissa.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD, and I have Melissa with me today. Annabelle's out on assignment. We're extremely excited to bring you guys all-around badass of sorts, Mr. Brayand Ponciano. He is a millionaire real estate investor and also happens to be one of mine and Melissa's mentors. And when I say an all-around badass, what I mean is this guy is a mental giant. When it comes to mindset and protecting your mindset, he's one of the best in the business. And we brought him on the show today to help you learn how important mindset is and maybe some unconventional methods of doing that. With that in mind, BP, my man, how are you?
Unconventional is definitely the right word for me.
Sure.
I'm fucking amazing, honestly. Life has never been better. This thing that we're living through here with the pandemic and everything going on, honestly, I know there's a lot of people suffering out there, but for me personally, it has just been an amazing time of being able to hang out with my family, being able to dial in the business, being able to launch the mindset program. There's a lot of awesome things that have happened because of that. So I'm living in an amazing life at this point. Glad to be alive.
That's awesome. I remember when we met BP, so we were at the Kingdom, and it was like a weekend mastermind, and everything had been kind of conservative, and then like right there at the tail end, they bring BP up, and wow, it was just like, that was like a showstopper for sure. I don't know, JD, how you thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit more in your face than any of the other presentations had been. And actually, that was the same mastermind event where me and Melissa met, and Annabelle and Melissa met. And that was the first time that we got to experience your presence, BP. And I think that's the best way to put it.
That is the best way to describe it. Without sounding egotistical, there's a certain energy that I exude that can't be explained. You can try to tell somebody, oh, yeah, you got to meet this BP guy. He's really awesome. But that doesn't really justify the energy that I put out. And I say that because I worked really hard for many, many years to be able to vibrate at such a high frequency. And you hear that all the time. You hear higher elevation, higher vibrations, vibrating at a higher frequency. But it's not until you experience it in real life by somebody, and you're like, what the fuck was that? That was not, right. I didn't expect that. And the one thing that really kind of caught everybody off guard at the Kingdom was nobody knew who I was. Right. One of the Pew brothers was a good friend of mine. He still is. And he said, hey, man, I would like to have you in there. And I haven't really told anybody, including like Todd and Jordan, who were the founders of that, right? He didn't tell them about me. He just said, hey, I got this guy in Arizona. I think he'll resonate with our people. So when I went out there, because nobody knew who I was, I kind of sat in the audience and I blended in. I sat in with everybody. I went to all the things. I just participated. I took notes just like I was a paid member.
Asked questions and tried to learn too.
Well, yeah, and I'm always learning. My mentor always tells me be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And even though at this point of my real estate career, I had no interest in wholesaling, which is what most people, especially when they get into the business, is the area that they go into. It was still good to hear how other people were doing it. It was still good to hear some of the other people's strategies, some of the Airbnb strategies, some of the buy and hold strategies. And then, I got to meet a guy who has become a good friend of mine and mentor, who I was literally just hanging out with and having lunch today, Mr. Troy Fullwood. And he was talking about notes, and he was talking about becoming the bank. So I always learned, like I always learned from everybody else. But what happened was that because I was part of the audience and because nobody knew who I was, honestly, there was only one person in there, Helena, who actually knew who I was before anybody else did. She recognized me from online or whatever, but everybody else didn't. So everybody was talking around me very freely. Everybody was doing what they did. And I had a certain message. My original message was, hey, I just bought an apartment complex out of state. I'm a ghetto kid from Los Angeles. If I can do it, you can. But as I sat there and I heard motherfuckers complain and bitch and whine and excuses, my message changed. My message changed right before I walked up to the stage. And I don't know if you guys noticed, because I didn't do it for attention, but there was a pool table and there was a couch right by the pool table. And I sat there and I meditated before my time. And I wasn't doing it for show. I was really like, y'all motherfuckers do your own thing. When I opened my eyes, there was, I don't know, 5-10 people standing around looking, a few people with the camera taking pictures and videos of me just sitting there meditating. And obviously after I went on stage, they realized why that was.
Yeah.
Well, when he got there, he slid in and sat next to me on the couch, and like, I can't remember the first or second person up, and then he just said, quit with your bullshit excuses. And then I was like, okay, this is going to be really good.
Yeah.
I felt that in my experience in my life, there's eventually something that you were meant to do. And you realize that as you get older, that's something you've been good at since you were a kid, something that you excelled at, something that you do better than other people. And my thing has always been truth telling. I need to share my version of the truth. Now, because of that, I tend to not be excuse oriented. So when I heard people over excuses, my message changed from, if I can do it, you can too, to y'all motherfuckers are full of shit. Like for the last 2.5 days, all I heard was bitching excuses of why you can't do your first deal, why you can't do your first flip, why you've done one flip but haven't done a second one, or a wholesale but haven't done a second one. And mind you, by this point, I had started door knocking. I had done cold calling. I had wholesaled for many, many years. I had fix and flip. By this point, I had stopped fixing and flipping. I had flipped more houses. I don't know how many I have, because honestly, I don't fucking remember, nor do I care. But I want to say right around like 50 houses that I've probably flipped in my career. And at that point, I was into multifamily investing. So when I got up there, I said, you know what, you guys are completely full of shit. And I didn't mean it from like a bad place. I actually meant it like, hey guys, I'm trying to help you guys out. If you continue being full of shit, you're going to end up in this place. You're not going to be able to get where you want to, but you guys needed to know. I didn't know how that was going to go over with. I knew that Tyler, he loved my presentation. I already knew that the Pew Brothers loved my style because I had already been on some of their stuff that they did before, but I didn't know how it was going to be taken. And I had a lot of people come up to me during the audience and say, hey man, you did this, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you guys remember, but we went to Top Golf. It was like the third day, right? Jordan came up to me, and you guys know how Jordan is. He's very like serious most of the time, doesn't really show too much emotion, just kind of that type of guy. So he came up to me and he put his hands on me when we were in a Top Golf, and he said, hey man, can I give you some criticism, some constructive criticism? And I said, yeah, man, by all means. I mean, it's your show. Like, I thought he was going to be like, dude, don't ever do that shit again. Like, blah, blah, blah. He actually told me the exact opposite. He's like, don't change anything. I've had about 10 people approach me and said, thank you for bringing that guy, because I didn't realize how full of shit I was. That's something that I've learned from a young age, and I've now started to accept and step into my power, which is becoming a truth teller in that sense of most of the people that I help out are entrepreneurs, but instead of me teaching them how to do the actual work, I'm shifting their mindset. I'm shifting what they're focusing on, understanding that that's eventually going to help them become a better investor or whatever they choose to be.
Yeah, definitely works.
It does. And I think the reason that resonated with so many people at that event is because there's so many people that go through day to day and they're not honest with themselves. And if you're not honest with yourself, then it strikes you as strange when a perfect stranger starts speaking truth into your heart and into your mind, because they all know ultimately at the end of the day, deep down, people know when they're bullshitting themselves, and they just choose to ignore that piece of it. And bringing it to the forefront of their mind helps them see that they know that what they're saying is bullshit. And that's such a huge hurdle to get past.
We all know that human beings are liars. Like, we've met liars all the fucking time. And people lie to you all the fucking time. The one person that lies to you the most, to you, is you. Like, you're your own biggest fucking liar. You're always full of shit. You're always making up shit. So a lot of times people love to put the blame on others, and that's a big thing. So basically what I do with the mindset is called personal development, which is working on yourself. The number one rule of personal development is everything starts and ends with you. Everything that has happened and transpired in your life from the point that you were an adult moving forward is your fault. All the good is your fault. All the bad is your fault. All the shit that went all right, that's your fault too. Like, everything is your fault, including the good. And people, everybody creates their own reality, but only successful people take credit for it. Everybody can make their own reality. Everybody. And you're seeing it now with this COVID-19 stuff. Yes, it changed shit. Yes, it affected my business, but it didn't completely take me out. Actually, the good part about it was it slowed me down enough to say, hey, man, I should fix this. We've been meaning to take care of this. Let's go ahead and make this happen. We've been meaning to hire somebody to build the processes and procedures. Well, shit, Section 8 is slow and all these other places are slow. We can't do anything. So let's make some productive time of use of that time. And that all stems with mindset. That all stems with going back and saying, okay, where do I come into this? Yes, I partnered with somebody that took advantage of me, but I have to understand that I attracted them into my life. Mm-hmm. I trusted that person. I gave that person money. When the red flags were popping up, I chose to ignore it. I chose to stay married to that motherfucker for 20 years. Yeah, he's a piece of shit, but I'm a fucking dumbass because I stayed with this guy or this girl for X amount of time. Like, you can try to blame them and say, oh, my wife, she was this and that. Oh, my husband, he was a blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you chose to stay there. You chose to tolerate this shit. You are the one that attracted this. And that's one of the main reasons why people really, it takes them a long time to start warming up to personal development. Because just like you guys, and I don't, I know you guys personally, but I don't know you guys intimately this way. I don't know why you started real estate, but I can pretty much fucking guarantee you that you didn't start real estate to work on your personal development. At some point, you got it. You were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And you got as far as you can get, which most of the time is not very far, but it's still whatever, right? You get as far as you can get and you're like, fuck, there's somebody that keeps on holding me back.
What do I do now?
You run out of fucking fingers, you realize that it's this guy right here.
That's good. That's a good word. Yes, for sure.
It's almost like, the difference in mindset is the difference between people that life happens to them versus people that life happens for them. And getting that mindset shift when you come from a lower socioeconomic background, when you come from a place of being beat down for years and years and years, is a really difficult task. And even if you don't come from a place of poverty or of scarcity, even if you're born into a rich family, you have the same limiting beliefs and mindsets pushed into you. Well, I'm only getting this because my dad was this, and everybody has these. They might come from different place, but when you stop lying to yourself and you start taking responsibility for your actions, and for everything that surrounds you, you can start to elevate yourself to that next level. And that's a huge
and I got really lucky, and I say lucky hesitantly because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
I met this guy at a networking event, and there's a book that I actually happen to have here because I'm at my office called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. The guy in the back here, that's T. Harv Eker right there. Well, I met this guy at a networking event who was childhood friends of T. Harv and had actually been hired by Harv to build his business through, like, become the COO of the business right before he launched the book, because Harv knew that as soon as he launched the book, he was just going to blow the fuck up. Anyway, this guy lives here in Phoenix, and he started a club where we go over this book. It's been over 10 years now. It's been, right around 10 years now that I've been studying this book week in and week out with my mentor. Now, in this book, he has what are known as wealth files, and wealth files are different ways that rich people think from poor and middle class people. Wealth file number 1 says rich people create their life, poor people believe that life happens to me. And that's a very telling truth that's out there, because one of the things that keeps poor people poor is their inability to take personal responsibility and say, yes, you know what? And I tell this all the fucking time. I mean, I'm not a fucking idiot. Of course racism exists. I've experienced racism myself. I know for a fact that because I'm a brown guy that uses fucking shit and cunt, whatever the fuck I want to fucking say, I know that there's people that choose not to do business with me. I know that turns some people off. I get it. But what I also get is that I don't have to be what those people tell me to be. I can be whoever the fuck I want to be, despite of. So yes, there is racism out there. There is other crap that happens that makes it easier for a certain demographic of people. And whether we like to admit it or not, we all have privilege. And I've talked about this many fucking times. I have a privilege as being a man that I don't have to worry about going into a fucking business meeting and having a guy trying to fuck me, as opposed to Melissa going into a business meeting. She doesn't know if the person is really trying to talk to her about business or if he's trying to fucking, say, hey, blah, 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 blah. And I'm pretty sure that's fucking happened to you before, Melissa.
Every day.
There's advantages to being different. She doesn't have that advantage. She also has other advantages that maybe guys will give her time to speak and listen to her business just because they think she's cute. And even though they may not have interest, and maybe some of those people become clients, as opposed to me, I don't get that benefit because I'm not a fucking female. So I say that because people like to focus on what they don't have. Well, it's because I'm a woman. This is a male in the dominated industry, so I'm never going to. Oh, it's because I'm a guy, and if I was a cute girl like so-and-so, everything would be so much easier. We always like to focus on what we don't have. But one of the things that I love to teach people is do it in spite of. Whatever you think is holding you back, whatever your fucking excuse is, do it in spite of. Because yes, there may be, like I said, racism out there, but that's not going to stop me from building generational wealth. That's not going to stop me from buying apartment complexes. That's not going to stop me from fucking trading notes on fucking Wall Street. Like that, none of that's going to stop me. And I try to tell people all the time that I have never, ever, 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 ever walked into a country club and had somebody stop me at the door and say, hey, you're not white, you can't come in. Never in my fucking life has that fucking happened. Maybe have I gotten different looks or something? Yeah, but I choose not to focus on that. And that's the big thing that I want to put out there is when you realize that you create your own life, part of you creating your own life is what you focus on. And if you're sitting here fucking crying like a big baby, COVID-19 fucked up my business, you're going to get more of a fucked up business. As opposed to if you sit here and focus and say, okay, COVID-19 fucked up a lot of people's business. There's got to be a big opportunity somewhere. Where is that? And you can take advantage of that situation. Most people choose the bitch, whine, complain, play the role of the victim.
Yeah, we are definitely not. We are doing the use it to our advantage.
You have to use everything to your advantage. When we're the networking event where I met my mentor, my mentor Jeff that I mentioned to you. was filled with nothing but older white people. And I was in my early 20s at that point. And they were, they were doctors, lawyers, successful business people, people that have been on TV and shit like that. And I realized real quickly that the old successful ones wanted me around because I was basically their token brown guy, and they can show their other rich friends, hey, this is the guy from the hood. Brian, tell him how you grew up in Los Angeles. Tell him how you grew up around drugs and blah, 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 blah. And, he's making a good life for himself, and I'm helping him and I'm guiding him or whatever. Mm-hmm. I didn't give a shit that people were using me for my race. I took advantage of that shit. Hey, you want to parade me around? Fuck yeah. Let me meet all your rich people. Let me meet all your rich friends. Let me see which one of these I personally like hanging out with better and build a relationship with them. So you can bitch and sit there and complain about it. Oh, this guy, all he wanted to do was parade me around. Or you can use it to your advantage. And that all goes back to mindset. There's no real estate book. There's no real estate fucking seminar. There's no fucking cold calling script that will teach you what the fuck I just told you right now.
BP, so I guess my question is, because we have a lot of people that listen to this podcast and come from since I'm in the military, I have a lot of diverse friends that maybe I wouldn't have if I had grown up in my hometown and stayed there. But I do see that common theme running through people's head where and this is everybody, but how do you get somebody to see that they're in control of their destiny? What do you do, or how do you get them to have that mindset flip? Or is it that they do it on their own and then you can help guide them better?
So I met my mentor, Jeff, that I told you. I approached him. I said, you're fucking amazing. He said, I run this club. You should show up. It's every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. from 8 to 9:30. It's free of charge. I showed up. Honestly, I thought it was some multi-level marketing stuff initially. And then I showed up and he goes through his pitch and then he doesn't pitch anything at the end. Like he goes through his lesson and then he doesn't pitch anything at the end. And I was like, wow, okay, that's kind of weird. So then he said, hey, yeah, I actually grew up with Harb and I was there present when he wrote the book. And I was like, wow, that makes this very, very real to me, because you could be reading any other author's book and you don't know if what they're saying is true or not. Mm-hmm. But Jeff was like, no, this was right. This was wrong. Anyway, I approached Jeff like the second or third week and I said, man, this stuff that you're sharing is the truth. Like, this should be shared everywhere. This is changing my life. I can't believe that I didn't understand how my mind worked. I have a brother of mine. I currently live with him. We're 11 months apart. We have shared a room all of our child life, all the way till we were adults. And, he's been my biggest supporter. I really want to show him this. I really want to help him. He's got a lot of potential, but he just keeps on getting in his own fucking way. And I love my brother. How can I teach him this? And you know what this motherfucker told me? You don't. You can't. He told me you can't. And he said, the only thing you can do is focus on yourself. If you become an example, at some point, he may or may not reach out to you. And if he does, you can guide him to the light. And even then, only because you guide him doesn't mean that he's actually going to go through with it. And just like most people, I heard his advice and I'm like, yeah, I heard you, but I'm going to go do it, try it anyway. And I showed up to my brother and I was like, hey, bro, check this shit out, man. This is fucking awesome. Boom, boom, boom. We're doing this. We're doing that. And he's like, that sounds too much like a cult. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested. It wasn't until a year or so later that he started seeing the change in my life. He started seeing the difference that this was making just in my life in general, plus the difference that it was making in my bank account. And he was like, hey, man, can I go check out one of these meetings that you go to every week? You can try to tell people everything. And we've all heard that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I mean, you can try to tell people shit, but most of the time they're not going to want to listen to you until they want to. So you guys know my business partner, Cashflow Chris, right? Yes. Super nice guy, very knowledgeable guy, very awesome dude. He's married. He's got 2 wonderful kids. His wife, Stacy, is an amazing lady. for years, Chris was coming to these classes. For years, he was telling Stacy, "Hey, it's all in your mindset. Check out the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. You got to do this. You got to check that out." And she was like, "Nah. I'm not interested. I'm not interested." One day, Stacy listens to a podcast where some chick is on there talking about personal development. And Stacy comes home and she's like, "Oh my God, Chris, you're not going to believe what I found out. This is fucking awesome. This information is great. Do you know that your thoughts create everything?" Chris was like, "I've been telling you that shit for the last fucking 6 years." This is why I said earlier, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The teachers are there already. It's just you're not ready. It's no different than when you're looking to buy a car, right? And you say, "Hey, I'm going to buy a new Mercedes Benz." And then all of a sudden you start seeing new Mercedes Benz all over the place, especially if you're like, "I'm going to buy an S class or a C class or whatever fucking model, whatever." You start seeing those. That doesn't mean that they didn't exist. That just means that you weren't paying attention to them. So when you are ready as a student, you'll learn. And if you are currently trying to help somebody better their mindset, the best thing that you can fucking do is be a shining example of what could happen when you actually train your mindset. And as I like to call it, and what I called my program, unfucking your mindset. When you unfuck your mindset, you can't show somebody else to do it unless you have your mindset unfucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not just, Cashflow Chris's wife story. That's mine too. I told my wife, Annabelle, every single day about how awesome real estate is. Here, try to read this book. Here, everything. It wasn't until I brought Annabelle to that first meetup where I first met you and first met Melissa that she saw a bunch of other regular people doing the stuff that I was talking about. And that's when she got on board to our stuff.
Yeah, people have to find out for themselves. People have to know that this is something their choice, because if you push your choice on somebody else, it's not their choice anymore. And the one thing that human beings do not like is to be told what to do when they don't want to be told what to do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they want to be. Sometimes human beings want to be told what to do. Like, that's what most employees are employees because they want to be told what to do, whether they admit it or not. They don't want to. They don't want the responsibility of making the decisions themselves. So they require their boss or their manager to make those decisions. That's above my pay grade. When people want to be told, but when people don't want to be told, the worst thing you can do is tell them what to do, because they're actually going to dig their heels in deeper. And even if you're trying to help them, even if what you're sharing with them is something helpful that will benefit them, they are not going to come around to it until they are 100% ready to come around to it.
BP, I think that's all fantastic information that you've been sharing. If you had to break down and tell the person who's just starting out, just discovering the whole personal development piece of it, what's your advice that you're going to give them that's going to set them on the right path? These are people who want it, who are out there trying to find it, but maybe don't have any idea of where to go to find that kind of information. What are you telling those type of people to do?
So what I'm telling these people to do is, I actually just decided to create a program based on what I have personally gone through. And what we just did is we just recorded a webinar. It ended up going 2 hours. That's between the webinar and then people were asking questions at the end that I was answering, where I shared my top 10 secrets on how to unfuck your mindset. Step number 1 is to realize that you have a fucked up mind, because it's easy to point at other people and say they're fucked up. They don't look at things. They're closed-minded. They only see their point of view. They don't want to change their minds. It's a lot harder to point that camera inside and say, I need to deal with it. And one thing that I've met with people across the board is everybody's got a fucked up mind, because everybody's mind was fucked up from the time that they were young. Society fucked us up. Our parents fucked us up. Teachers fucked us up. Or what we saw, what we experienced. So anyway, what I decided to do is, if you go to unfuckyourmindset.com, I'm actually giving out that webinar for free. You can register for the webinar. And you can go through the whole thing, and it's a free thing that I do. This other thing that I'm doing is I actually put a podcast together called Unfuck Your Mindset, where I specifically walk through how I unfucked my mindset. And right now I'm going on 30 episodes. Once I hit the 30th or so, then I'm bringing in my first guest and interviewing them. And I'm going to be interviewing different people from all different aspects of business and success, but mainly focusing on the mindset. How did they do? Because one thing that I noticed, like as a real estate investor, is every time I went and I leveled up, when I went from a door knocker to a wholesaler, when I went from a wholesaler to a fix and flipper, when I went from flipping one house at a time to flipping 15 houses at a time to buying and holding to apartment complexes and all that other shit, it was nothing more than a shift of mind. It was nothing more than me believing that I can actually do it. It didn't matter how skilled I was. So that's the first thing that I recommend everybody go to unfuckyourmindset.com, take advantage of that. And one of the things that we're doing right now is I'm actually doing, so my official launch date is at the end of the month. And after the webinar, we put together a special where we're doing lifetime membership for $4.99. Our normal price is going to be $100 a month for the membership. So for $4.99, you get lifetime membership, and we're doing that for the first 100 people. We already have 40 or so people that have signed up. So we're going to be putting that out there for the next few weeks for people to sign up and take advantage of that. But the reason why I say that, I don't say that because it financially benefits me. But one of the things that I've done, and you guys can attest to this, one of the things that I can do is I can take a very complicated subject and make it very easy for everybody to digest, regardless of your level of expertise or not. So what I've done is I've taken this information that I've got in this book. I've taken the information that I've learned from my mentor. I've taken the information that I have from a few other things that I study. And as I said, with this book, I've been studying for the last 10 years, and I've put it in a way that I feel is very easy for people to digest. And I break it up and I give them into lessons week by week by week, because that was the way that I learned. I'm not trying to overfeed everybody. I'm trying to give you small digestible things that you can actually take into your life, apply, and start looking at things different. Because one thing here, and this is something that you guys can use, this is part of this book here, it's called the process of manifestation. And the process of manifestation states that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your results. And you may be wondering here, like, well, the fuck am I going to spend my time reading this book? Why am I going to take this course? I've come to the freaking Jam podcast because I want to do real estate. I want to wholesale. What the fuck is this guy talking about? But the process of manifestation teaches you that it all starts with your thoughts. Your thoughts lead to your feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. So where most people just focus on action, and that's why people get burned out. You know, people that come to you, Melissa, people that come to you, JD, are like, hey, how do I do this? What contract do I do? How do I talk to a seller? What do I say? What? But they never truly understand that it's the how, the why, that is really, really the important portion of it. And it all stems from your minds. If you don't have the right thought, you're going to be having bad emotions. If you can't control your emotions, you're going to get bad results, even if you're taking the right action. Even if you're doing exactly what I tell you to do step by step, if your mind is like, yeah, well, watch it fail, that's not going to work. Like, oh, yeah, you know, it maybe work for BP because he's very charismatic and I'm not charismatic at all. So that's never going to work for me. That will stop you. And I can tell you guys one thing here, the one thing that has separated me the most, you know, I'm not the richest person out there. I don't drive the nicest car. I don't have the biggest house, but what I can please, if you know somebody happier than me, please send them my way so I can learn. I mean, and I'm talking about like genuinely happy, genuine content with life, that lives a more amazing life than I do. And if you don't know what type of my life looks like, go to Cashflow Creator on Instagram, and you can follow me because I post all my shit on my stories. But seriously, and I do mean that, if you know somebody happier than me, I would love to meet them, because I would love to learn what they know that I don't know. But when people meet me, and that's the energy that we talked about in the beginning of the show, when people meet me, they say, holy shit. And it's not because I'm the best negotiator. It's not because I'm the best talker. It's because I've worked on this mindset here for the last 12 years. So I decided to put something together to help people through that same journey. But
Yeah.
really,
Awesome.
like I said, step number 1, realize that you have a fucked up mindset. Step number 2, learn the process of manifestation that teaches you that it all starts with your thoughts. And then step number 3, go to unfuckyourmindset.com, take advantage of the free webinar. And if you're listening to it here in the next few weeks before the end of July, you can actually take advantage of the pre-launch special, which is, we're not going to do that ever again. So anyway.
Thank you. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really great.
It
We'll link to those links. We'll link to the book in the show notes from this. BP, is that where you want to send people to find you, find out more about you? Your Instagram, your Facebook, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so if you want to connect with me, personally, go to Instagram, because I'm always at the 5,000 mark on my Facebook, and I'm constantly deleting people, but people are constantly sending me. So anyway, if you want to follow me personally, if you want to be part of what I do, one of the things that I did is I created Unfuck Your Mindset Community on Facebook. So if you go to the search bar and you put Unfuck Your Mindset Community, it's a free group. It's not part of the program that I mentioned. This is a free group where everybody in there is only there to talk about mindset, working on yourself. I don't allow any, I monitor all the posts and stuff, so I don't allow any bullshit on there. I don't allow anything else on there that's not specifically talking about mindset. We have about like 1,600 people right now, and the feedback, the conversations that happen in that group I'm super proud of that group and the way that it's growing. So anyway, you can go there, but if you want to get to know about me personally, go to at Cashflow Creator. And if you want to know more about the program, then you can follow us on Instagram at Unfuck Your Mindset. You can go to the podcast and get those for free. As I said, right now, I think I'm on episode 28 or so, and that's just a free way for people to get this content. At the end of the day, I really just want to know, like, I know, JD, that if I help you fix your mindset, I'm going to fix the rest of your life. You're going to be a better husband. You're going to be a better father. You're going to be a better business owner. You're going to be a better boss. You're going to be a better delegator. You're going to be a better investor. Like, everything stems from that. And one thing that I do want to leave people, which is heavy on this book, is the concept that your roots create your fruits. It's what's below the ground that creates what's above the ground. It's what's invisible that creates what's visible. And in nature, as in life, and your roots are your mind. Your roots are your mind, your thoughts, and your emotions. If you're able to control your thoughts and you're able to control your emotions, I will tell you from personal experience, shit just works out. The universe literally goes out of its way to make shit work out for you if you just learn how to control those two aspects of your life.
I believe that,
so, anyway,
for sure.
Yeah, that's where people can go to connect. Yeah, and if you heard me, or you just found out about me through this podcast, make sure that you let me know when you send me a message. One of the things that I love the most is when your audience from whatever podcast I'm in messages me and says, "Hey man, I've never heard of that. That's freaking awesome. That's refreshing. I'm a brown guy from Los Angeles, man. I'm so glad to hear somebody talk like me, and it lets me know that if that guy can do it, like I can do it too."
Right.
Yeah. Well, I love it, BP. We want to try to respect your time. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. We're going to link all your stuff in the show notes, and man, that was awesome. We love it. We love you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on. As you guys see, I have my little one over here. And I, please guys, do me a favor, especially you newbies, especially you guys that are thinking about getting into the business. Build your business around your lifestyle, not the other way around. Especially if you're married, especially if you got kids. Don't be one of those people that is sacrificing and negating your family, and you're working for your family. Like, don't be that guy. Please make sure that you build your business around your lifestyle, or whatever your desired lifestyle is. And that I would highly anticipate, or I would highly encourage you to do that as I go back and hang out with my kid. That's basically all I did today. I hung out with him in the morning. I made a few phone calls, went to go have lunch with my awesome mentor, had sushi, chatted for 2 hours, drove back home, hung out with the kid, went out to eat, did this, and then now I'm going to go back and eat some more and hang out with kids.
That's an amazing life that you created by your thoughts. And like I said, we really appreciate having you on. Thanks, my man.
All right, brother. Thank you guys. Yes.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, check out our website, shorefrontrestorations.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Shorefront Restorations. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at info@shorefrontrestorations.com. See you next episode.